have we have a React Native app running on iOS, Android. Perfect. We have a web app, admittedly a pretty simple web app, running in our browser, but they're not related to each other at all.
Right. So
And
right
so
now
the
we've got that React Native that's doing our mobile, and we've got
mhm,
React Web, and that's doing the web. And
right, but not related at all. But in most companies, like you want a mobile presence and a web presence, and you kind of want them to have the same feel. You want them to have a lot of the same UI elements. You want them to look basically the same. So our goal is going to be set up a way to share code between these three platforms. These two platforms over here are obviously already sharing code, but share code between all three and have it run successfully on three very different platforms: web, Android, iOS. Um, so let's go ahead and do that. All right. So what we're gonna do first. This is our mobile app. We're gonna create a new directory in the root called app. Would be where we put our most of our source code. And then we're gonna create a new folder inside, and we're gonna call it shared. And I know I named it something random, but can you guess what's gonna be inside the shared directory?
something demo.
So what we're going to put inside shared is going to be the code that we're going to share. So
Ah,
probably components is a good thing to share. If you're not familiar with React, components are like the building block of a React app. It's one of the things that makes React so amazing is you can abstract your UI into these little things called components, which are shareable, and make your UI a lot more uh, easy to port around, easy to understand. So yeah, they're the building blocks of a React app, and they're probably what we're going to end up wanting to share between a web app and our mobile app. Other things you may want to share, things like maybe utils or maybe theme stuff that you want to be the same between all different versions of your app. So we created this shared directory. So how do we get it to actually be shared? Um, I'm going to go ahead and copy this path really quick. The technique I'm going to use is actually like surprisingly simple, and sometimes like I question if like how does this even work because it seems like it's too simple to work. But what I'm going to do is actually just create a symlink. So if you don't know what a symlink is, it's short for symbolic link. It just tells your operating system, hey, this folder over here, I want you to take that and mirror it in this other location. So two folders in two different places, but they have exactly the same content. And when you change stuff in one folder, it changes in the other. So that's what we're going to do. So over here, I'm going to create, this is my web application. At the root, I'm just going to create a directory called source. If you're wondering why I didn't call it app, there's not really any good reason except that I get lost really easily. And so this helps me know that I'm in the web application instead of the mobile. If I see SRC, cool, that's where I am. So it just helps me keep my bearings.
I do that. I get lost quite frequently because if you start getting playing around like Azure functions, every Azure function entry point by default is named
Probably.
index.ts or
Yep.
index.js, and
Uh-huh.
so you'll have like five of those like in separate tabs all open in
Mm-hmm.
VS Code. Like, okay, which one is which?
Yep. Yep. We had some of that. I have some of that go on as well. And then I'm gonna go back to the terminal for a second. I'm gonna need a new. There we go. New tab. I'm gonna actually go ahead and create the symbolic link. So I do that with the ln command. I'm gonna run ln-s, and here's the path to the shared directory that I created in our mobile app, and I'm gonna link it to a shared directory in this source folder in our web app. So I go ahead and run that, and then if we go back to VS Code and we like reload, yep, now you can see this is our web app, and our shared directory has components theme and utils, which we obviously created over in the mobile app. So same folder, it's just a mirror. If you want to see even more evidence of that, I'm going to go ahead and create a file called counter, because we're going to create, that's what we're going to make. We're going to make a counter component. So I'm just going to go ahead and create that file. I'm going to add a comment just so we can make sure that the content looks the same. And then look over in the web side. And what do we have under here? We have counter, and it has the same content.
Voila.
It's pretty magical. So that's how we're going to physically share the code and have it be in both applications. But now we want to be able to write code that's going to be able to run in both applications. So that's really where React Native Web comes into play. So that's what we're going to install next. So let's go ahead and I'm going to kill the web server just because I'm going to be installing stuff and I want to make sure that that gets restarted. And then I'm going to install React Native Web in this web application. So I'm going to do yarn add native web, and I'm also going to install some React Native types, just so TypeScript is happy. Okay, so we've installed that. The next piece is kind of the crux of how this whole strategy works. So I'm going to go back to my package.json. This is in the web app, and I'm going to add an alias. What this alias is going to do is anytime I write an import statement that is like importing something from React Native, like a view, text, image, whatever, it's actually going to go ahead and look in React Native Web.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that means that we can have like the identical code all the way up to the import statement. So it's going to say import from React Native, which means it'll work on the React Native app because React Native, and it will also work in the web app because it's going to secretly be looking in React Native Web. So
we don't have to tell anybody else. That'll just be our secret.
Right. Our secret. Okay. Right. So that's kind of the crux of how this whole thing works. So now comes the really fun part. We're going to actually build this component. And rather than make you watch me build a React component from scratch, we're going to bring in some more magic of television. Let's see. There we go. Magic of television. So voila, a React Native component has appeared as if from nowhere. I'll kind of walk you through this a little bit. This is just a counter component. You can see from React Native, we've imported something called pressable, which is just like an area of the screen that can be pressed, and you can give it an action to run when it's pressed. We have style sheet, which is for defining our styles. We have text view. View style is a TypeScript type, just for typing. So if you're not a TypeScript user, you can safely ignore that. But what we have here is we just have a couple of buttons. So we have pressable wrapped around some text, and then each pressable is given an on press. You can see we have an increment action and we have a decrement action. So like one button increases the count, one decreases the count. And in order to keep track of the count, we're using what's called use state from React, which is a way to track local, like little bits of data in local state which is what updates the UI.
Okay. I like that syntax, the view, the pressable, the text, that like obviously it's not HTML, but like and this is also just partly an excuse for me to use one of my favorite words is onomatopoetically I can like figure out, oh okay, I know what's going on there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I really like that. There was two real quick questions that I want to make sure I bubble up. Number one was alias, going back to your package.json. Is that something that's particular to Parcel, or is that like a Yarn thing, or is that been an NPM all my life and I just didn't know about it.
I believe this is a parcel
Okay.
specific. Yes.
Okay.
I think that's actually one of the reasons why parcel worked so well for this architecture strategy is because it had this
Okay.
really cool alias feature. But yes, I believe this is a parcel specific thing. Don't quote me on it. I'm like 90 something percent sure about that. But yeah, I've
I
only
get
ever
that
used it.
exact same way, especially like when people start asking like what version something came to life, and like I don't know anymore. Like I've just been using it for so long, I just expect it to be there. I can't remember where it came from. I get that exact same way.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I just use it and it works.
The other question was, I want to scroll back up to it, is why you put the shared folder into the mobile app rather than into like a third location.
So that is a really excellent question. The reason for that is because the bundler for React Native, which is called Metro, is a bit more finicky about where things are. It's really difficult to put things outside of the main working directory and have Metro be able to find them. And it doesn't really like symlinks. So it worked best to put the folder in the mobile directory and then link it out for the web because Parcel was able to interpret that symlink correctly. And we kind of just want to not mess with Metro and just like make Metro think, hey, you're just a normal React Native app. Nothing funny going on here. So that's, yeah, really the reason is that Metro was a bit finicky.
Okay. That I love it. Yep.
Yeah, appeasing our technology overlords.
That is one of my big approaches. Is like, hey, you know what? I don't know why this works, but it works, so I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Exactly. One of the reasons why like this whole approach feels like almost too good to be true. I'm like, I can't believe this actually worked, but hey, we built an entire production app using this shared code strategy, so I'm not gonna knock it. Right. So yeah, so that this is our React Native component. But how do we get it to render on the screen? Because we still have this like welcome to React Native and this lovely hello world over here, but I want to see this counter that we just built. So I'm gonna have to import it. So let's start over on the mobile side. We're gonna open up app.tsx. This is what just comes with the React Native boilerplate.
How did you do that in VS Code? Like I know that's possible. Like I've seen other people do it, but I can never remember what's that shortcut key that you just did to open up that file.
That would be Command P.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I run that probably 1,000,000 times a day. I don't think I barely look at my the file directory browser anymore just because my apps get so big that I would be drilling for most of my day. So yeah, Command P, try it out.
Okay. I dig it.
So yeah, this is app.tsx. This is what comes with the React Native boilerplate. All of this code right here is what is powering this screen. So you have things like these are some reusable components, reload instructions, debug instructions. That's what's powering this screen. But we're gonna take it all out because we don't really want this boilerplate content. We want our own content. So I'm gonna go ahead and just delete some code. Who doesn't like doing that? Everyone likes to delete code, I think. And then TypeScript is going to go ahead and tell us all the rest of the stuff that we don't need. I'm going to take out this component up here. Whoa. Sorry, I'm not used to my font being so big. So like there's all this extra scrolling that it does. And so yeah, TypeScript is very helpfully telling us, hey, you're not using these things anymore. You can take them out.
I was talking once with the PM of TypeScript, and he said that he sometimes jokes part of his job is just making sure more red squigglies appear.
Right? I love like the red squiggles. Like
Yeah.
when they show up, you're like, hey, that's something for me to do or fix or whatever. And then making them go away is your whole goal.
Yep.
And it feels amazing when also VS Code does this really nice thing where it turns the file name red until you fix the TS errors, and it's so satisfying.
Yes.
when it turns back to green. Anyway, so we've removed all that content, and what we want to render instead is our counter component that we made. And we're going to import, actually, VS Code, again, helpfully imported it for me. Thank you, VS Code. And in order to make this look right, I'm going to just quickly add a flex style here, and I'm going to go ahead and add a prop to this scroll view called content container style and give it those same background styles. This is just to make sure that everything fills the whole screen.
Okay. And that import is basically just like importing like anything else, like a class or a method or an object
Yep.
from somewhere else.
Yep. We just, so in the component file, we just exported it as a constant. Counter is just a function. Most like React components now are almost all just functions. So yeah, we're just exporting it and then importing it by name and then rendering it in our return.
Perfect.
So let's see. Whoa. There it is. The magic of live reload. As soon as I saved this file, our screen updated, and you can see that we have our lovely counter component. It's simple, but it does the job. So that's the mobile side. So next we want to get it displaying in our web app. So I'm going to go into our index.tsx. This is where remember that really, really simple React code was living. But we're not going to use React DOM elements anymore. We're going to use React Native core components. So I'm going to go ahead and import view from React Native instead of that div, and I'm going to import text from React Native instead of that p tag. And just for good measure, I'm going to change what it says so you know. It's actually working. And I'm going to go ahead and restart our web server. And hopefully that turns green for me. Awesome. Love that feeling. As soon as I refresh, awesome.
Do me a favor, view the source on that. I would love to see like what that text gets converted into.
Yes. So it's actually mostly just putting in divs. So
okay.
And this. Yeah. So it's converting those React Native core components into HTML. So in this case, it's a div nested inside another div.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we don't really want it to say this is rendered using React Native Web. We want it to look like our iOS and Android apps. So let's go ahead and put in our shared counter component instead of this text. So I'm going to import, I don't know if So we're going to import it. This time we're going to import it from the web shared components counter. And I'm going to add some styles just to make sure. Define our styles first. So we're going to do similar to what we had in the counter component itself. We're just going to use a React Native style sheet. We're going to import that from React Native. And we're going to define a container style and give it a width of 100% and a height of 100%. Don't come at me, designers. This is just a demo. And we're going to go ahead and pass that style into that purview.
And now start sizing everything specifically with pixels. Just
make
everybody start yelling and complaining.
Okay. So so is it going to make me restart the server? We were just talking before this that it's not a live demo unless something goes wrong.
Honestly, if this is all that goes wrong, I would call that
There
a
it is.
win. Yeah, there
There
you
it
go.
is. Awesome. So now we have, oh, this is really zoomed in. That's why it's so big. There we go. We have Android, we have iOS, and we have web, all rendering the same component.
I dig it.
And if we go ahead and like, if I want to go make a design change or fix a bug or something, let's say the designer all of a sudden wants the background color to be like green. I don't know why they would want that, but all I have to do is change it one place. Oh, there we go. Android and web. Change it one place. Oh, come on. Why are you doing this to me?
So you have to.
I probably have to do this again. Yep. So you can change it one place and you've just updated all of your different platforms.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
so awesome. That's so awesome. So now I've got that one shared code base that I can then use
Mhm.
across everything.
Obviously, it's not, so it's never going to be 100% shared.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't think that dream will ever exist just because there's things that have to be different. Like navigation on the web is very, very different than navigation in mobile apps. And so you're going to have to like handle navigation in your web apps separately from your mobile apps. But it allows you to, especially with React components and their portability, it allows you to define a lot of your UI in little shareable chunks that you then only have to write